Warning, the following may contain subject matter that is not suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
You better duck when I show up.
Yo, it's 8:11 Texas time on a Friday night. I know nobody's listening because y'all are all zooming, but I got a shot of hot rock and roll for you anyway. Kale, the Red River Rock and Roll request.
Hey, do you have that, new Midnight at the Monster Museum episode?
Real funny, guys. Okay, you want to hang up now? Did you do that? What happened?
It's like super feedback. Just put the underwoof across the overflapper. I don't know. Just went dead air.
Welcome to episode 7 of Midnight at the Monster Museum.
Midnight at the Monster Museum.
I'm Tom. This is Jeff. Here's the thing, guys. This is a very momentous occasion for me because this is, I'm not saying we haven't surpassed episode 7, but we're at episode 7. And whenever I've done anything episodic that I have tried, any kind of series, any kind of anything, I never get past 7. So it's this weird thing, like my Monster Garage, which is a YouTube show I did. Check it out. It's on YouTube. My Monster Garage only got to episode 7. My kids show that I've been working on, I'm only on episode 7, and it's we've hit some stone walls, and we'll see if we can't bring that back. That's called Monsters Rock, and it does rock, but it's also stuck at 7. It's just a thing.
That's not happening here.
The crazy thing is my buddy Tyler, who runs the Squash Match podcast through Anchor, who kind of gave me the platform to work, on this. He just kind of pulled the plug at episode 7. It just seems to happen. So,
his podcast?
His podcast is just died out, and
So I'm gonna die now when I leave.
I hope not. Well, that depends on what friggin' retarded monster comes.
Because I just said, it's not happening.
So here's the thing. If we make it to episode 8, everybody give us some virtual high fives. I think it is going to happen. We got a good team here, and we're doing really well. We have lots of content. We're getting a great fan base. We're building the sponsors. Things are happening. We have some big plans for the future, but let's talk about a little bit about the future. Coming up in our lives, we have a bunch of stuff in 1313 Effects World, which is outside the Monster Museum. I run a little effects group along with a bunch of other awesome, talented people, and it's called 1313 Effects. And we are working on a ton of movies. We're working on some crazy amounts of stuff. But in our near future, we have the Days of the Dead Horror Convention here in Las Vegas. Tons of celebrities. There's going to be a makeup challenge that I'm hosting. It's just going to be 3 days of old school horror convention style fun, and I think we're going to try to do a live broadcast from the convention, and that would be really cool. That being said, live, I don't know if it will actually stream live or if we will just record it live with other people around, which is just about as live as we're doing right now. So excuse my terminology, but we are going to record a podcast, not at the Monster Museum, but maybe more like 3 in the afternoon at Days of the Dead instead of Midnight at the Monster Museum. Yeah, on location. And then directly following that trade show, we start a movie called Halloween Night Meet the Ouijas for Full Moon's brand new endeavor called Deadly 10. They're doing 10 films in 1 year, all with different directors. We're spreading the resources and trying to make some of the greatest, coolest, schlockiest, fun flicks that we can. Starting with Halloween night. If you haven't been to deadly10.com, head over there. We just did a live broadcast of the director Danny Draven meeting the Ouija's for the first time, which is the little ghouly type creatures that we're creating him. It's a fun little video. Check that out on deadly10.com. And with that being said, maybe we can get Danny on the cast to talk about the movie before we start filming or after we film it. But we will also broadcast and record a episode on set, or maybe we'll make an episode out of a bunch of chunks from on set. Like we'll bring the recorders and every time we have some downtime, interview an actor or interview a camera guy or whoever in the filmmaking process we can, has something to bring to the table here. But it is a very short 6-day shoot, and we're going to be working our tails off the whole time. Lots of puppets. All the effects guys are going to be super busy, so we'll see what we can do. But I think it'd be really cool to bring the movie world into the podcast, as well as, because that's what the museum's about. We bring the movie world to the museum, and the museum flourishes. We had a heck of a day today. Today is the second day of summer, since school let out, really, but it's Labor Day weekend. Memorial Day weekend? What weekend is it? Memorial. It's Memorial Day weekend. Don't rush Labor
Day until
yeah, don't rush that. But Memorial Day weekend, and at the time that we're recording this, and we had, record numbers in here today. So that was great. And let's get this show started. Flashback feature!
"13 years ago, audiences across America were horrified by the savagery of a faceless killer. In the wake of this bizarre rampage, he vanished. Now, after more than a decade of silence, he has come out of hiding. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. The Buzz is back. Directed by Toby Hooper.
Xanadu?
No, not Xanadu. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Hey. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is our flashback feature. Obviously a fan favorite for so many.
It's one of my favorite,
sequels?
Yeah.
Or like horror. Do you consider it a straight horror, or do you go horror comedy?
It's horror comedy,
yeah,
for sure.
It's dark horror comedy, and I love it. I love from the opening scene with that dude with the funny hologram glasses, straight to the antics of Bill Moseley. I believe that Texas Chainsaw 2 is one of the greatest dark comedies out there. It's got like Bride of Frankenstein humor, where you think you're watching a horror movie, and it is disturbing, it is gross, but at the same time, it's certainly
a dramatic
comedy.
departure from the first movie. I mean, not just in tone, but I mean, even the characters themselves that, not a lot of them return.
Right.
But
Jim Sydow, he returns.
Yeah. Well, he's the old man, and they get a name in this one. You, Wally, had alluded to them last week with your cannibals.
As the Sawyers. Yeah.
The Sawyers.
You know what? It's really crazy because they were the Sawyers, and they were the Sawyers forever until they were the Hewitts. And that was always a little baffling to me. And I almost thought the Hewitts aren't the same family. They're like the Care Bear cousins of...
No, there's a bunch of retconning in there. I mean, even in names, there's retconning. There's names and retconned even before it goes to the Hewitts and stuff and timelines and stuff.
Well, I think that part 2, giving them the name, is a really cool thing. I'm just going to hit on a couple of the elements that I like. For anybody that hasn't watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, I highly advise you just pause this, watch it. There's a ton of screaming. Like, it might be the most yellingest, screamingest movie I've ever seen. But watch it. and then get right back here so I don't spoil it. I know the movie's over 30 years old, but it is such a gem that I don't want to ruin your appetite for a wonderful Saw movie. So here we go. All right, thanks for coming back, and I'm glad that you watched that movie, and I hope you loved it as much as I do. Here's a bunch of points that you must understand how important they are. Dennis Hopper. Dennis Hopper's the man. The birth of Bill Moseley as a horror icon. This is huge. We'll touch on all this.
Yeah.
And then the cave that they live in, that abandoned zoo theme park, they don't even touch on how fucking cool it is to live in an abandoned zoo type theme park.
The entire set is
oh my
incredible.
God. And it was a real abandoned working theme park at some point. I love where they live, and if I was a cannibalistic family, I would live there too. And then Stretch. Stretch is...
well, I think that's kind of what I was talking about, is that the tonal change, it almost feels like it's an alternate universe version of them, despite the fact that Side Out
right.
plays the same.
Well, I think the idea is like all that shit hit the fan in the 70s, and they're like, oh, we got to up and move.
Yeah.
And in the Reagan times, in the 80s, people were successful in business. They were spending lots of money. So Jim Sidow's out there winning chili competitions.
That's
as the
awesome,
father
right?
figure of this family. He's providing for his family. He bought them a theme park, and it's pretty impressive. Whether he bought it or not is left to speculation. The idea of him being successful in business of serving up humans to other humans is pretty much one of the coolest things that's ever happened.
The second year in a row. This year, Drayton, you've got to tell the secret of that fabulously tasty chili.
No secret. It's the meat. Don't skimp on the meat. I got a real good eye for prime meat. Runs in the family. Whoop, whoop. It's one of those hard-shelled peppercorns.
I think that Toby Hooper, he really came into his own as far as being a director, because he wasn't supposed to direct it,
Right,
only a budgetary thing, but the overall presentation of the film, it was completely was divisive and polarizing to the fan base because of the tonal shift. But I mean, even just visually speaking, I love this movie. So
yeah, it's one of those things where I felt like all the stars aligned, and it wasn't received by the general public nearly as well as by the horror fans. But also, by the time this movie came out, unlike the original, Fangoria existed. Fandom existed, and I think that the fans grabbed onto this movie so hardcore. The video store had the standee with the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, I love that so much.
And I always thought that was the most brilliant marketing ever, because the Breakfast Club itself is saying, hey, we're all fucked up. And so then to see the Chainsaw family in that position is like, yeah, we are all fucked up. And this is me and my chainsaw, and this is me and my plate in my head,
Well, I think it's funny because a lot of the fan base that were turned off by it, citing the offbeat and black humor and such. Toby Hooper says, the first movie has lots of black humor in it.
Yeah,
you guys just don't see it.
Yeah,
and what do you say to the guy that made he made the original, so it's like you need to tell him that there was or wasn't.
And the thing is he's one of my favorite directors. I don't know that he's ever made a movie I don't like. I think that through Texas Chainsaw 2, he got to make the movie he wanted to make. And he had a budget, and he had an effects team that was on it, and they knew. Tom Savini did a lot of the work for Texas Chainsaw 2, but he also had John Vulich at his side, and he had a lot of great people working
sculpting
under him, and what a awesome take on the Leatherface character.
I love Leatherface.
Yeah, the dude when he gets skinned.
LG.
LG. when he's skinned and sitting in front of everybody. I mean, and he's talking, and that was fun. It's foam latex, and we've seen it before, but back then that was really top of the line.
Even when they take the face and she puts it back on, that of course was desired, but it was not delivered.
Right.
You know, and they were actually pleasantly surprised to see
It fits
perfectly. Absolutely perfectly.
Yeah, it was not a snap cast or anything. It was just sculpted with the eyes missing, and the diameters were correct. You know, and no, great gore effects. I mean, maybe some of the best gore effects, and just awesome acting. Dennis Hopper, who is a crazy mofo, goes up against this crazy family. And when he's testing those chainsaws out, he's like standing at this log at some like wood mill place, and he's just like slamming chainsaws into the log and raising it up and hitting them down. And the salesman's like, you could see it in the salesman's face, who's an extra, probably not a trained actor, but in his face, you're like, he thinks that dude's crazy. He's like, this guy's crazy, but he's going to buy some chainsaws. So he doesn't stop him. He's like, oh, turn it down.
Dennis Hopper, despite his greatness and despite our love for it, he actually, at a point in time, had said that he thought this is the worst film
worst
ever
movie.
been. Until
space truckers.
Until he made Super Mario Brothers, and he died to the day. And I can't disagree with him. That movie's awful.
Yeah.
But
wasn't he? I think he was in Stuart Gordon's Space Truckers. I'm almost positive, and I love that movie. I haven't seen it for years and years, and I think it was Dennis Hopper that started.
Well, I think part of the thing that might have been the problem is because they went to film with a script that, you know, they, I guess, just nicely described it as a work in progress.
Yeah.
And Kit Carson, the writer, oddly enough, he just prior to making this movie, he had done a couple of scripts, Paris, Texas, which I think Hopper's in that,
Yep.
and then Breathless with Richard Gere, and he was told by his agent that he's graduated to become a serious screenwriter. And just before he wrote those movies, he had met Tobe Hooper, who showed him Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he was really enthusiastic about it. And as soon as his agent told him that, he literally went on record saying, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to. And then what did he do? He wrote Texas Chainsaw 2. But they went to film with bare bones shit, basically. Yeah. And he was rewriting the script the entire shoot to the point that they were filming scenes. He's rewriting, and they're like, "No, you don't need to keep writing that. We just filmed that."
There was some weird financial backings in it too. Like there was, the first one found distribution through mob money, and the second one had ties to that, but also media, which was a Charles Band company, put out, distributed Texas Chainsaw 2. But the production money itself, I think, was tied up in some of that mob money that the first one.
Well, there was reports that money kept going back in and out of the production.
Yeah, it was being like laundered.
Yeah.
Through props and effects and.
Yeah.
So I wasn't there. I don't know any of that, but I've heard the lore. And,
but lots of people are going on record as saying that. That's why I can speak confidently about some of these things. You know, it's like, yeah, I wasn't there, and you know, but enough people are saying it.
I don't want the Gambino family coming for me, but it has been spoken about in public on a lot of the commentaries and stuff too. Yeah, man, all in all, it's a roller coaster movie of a good time, and I'd say that
if we could go to the cast real quick, because I want to hear your take on this, and I, you know, when I found out, I want to hear your opinion on the matter, and that Tom Savini was very ecstatic that when it came to the grandpa character, that the effects team was actually allowed to cast him.
Yeah.
Because they were looking for a specific look, you know, for a skinny, gaunt looking person, so they could, you know, make him look proper as a frail old man and stuff. I mean, that's definitely not a commonality, right?
And one of the things is, so Savini had recently done one of his first overlaying makeup appliances was for Friday the 13th Part 4. Mm-hmm. I believe this came after Part 4.
I believe you're correct.
And so he reused the overlaying multi-piece prosthetic, which is commonly used.
He credits Dick Smith from Little Big Man.
And so Dick Smith created the overlapping prosthetic, but it's commonly used when every Freddy Krueger movie. I mean, it's a thing that's done. But Savini is a effects artist from Pittsburgh. He wasn't in Hollywood. He wasn't working in Hollywood. He never had a shop in Hollywood. So this is before the internet. This is before YouTube, and you're not watching how everybody's making stuff on Instagram and picking it apart. So being that he was inexperienced on Friday 4, which I think came first, he called Dick, and Dick Smith gave him every bit of information of how to do an overlaying appliance, and he did it, and it looks so good on the Jason. And then he reuses that on the grandpa effect too. It's a multi-piece overlaying prosthetic.
It's a good piece.
It's beautiful. I believe it was sculpted by John Vulich.
Yes.
And one of my favorites. I've actually replicated that sculpture.
At least that's what Savini said.
And I love that piece. It's one of those things where a collaboration of a bunch of great effects artists were able to pull things off in this movie. And I think that's the most important. They play to their strengths, you know, and that's really important. And I love that they allowed the effects team to cast the grandpa character, and I push for it almost every time I put somebody under makeup. I try to put somebody I'm familiar with or somebody that I can find that thinness or that.
When there is other powers at hand, you know, other directors, other...
It happened to me on this film I'm working on right now.
How often are you afforded that luxury to cast who you like?
Not often.
Yeah.
Not often. Sometimes if they trust me, or the sad part is if it's like a full creature suit, they almost don't know what to look for. So they'll be like, yeah, do you got a guy? But, you know, sometimes I work with a director that totally is like, who do you got? What can they do? Because they want that performance. And then sometimes a lot of directors, it's their baby, it's their project. They want to be heavily involved in that casting process. And like even for the thing we're doing right now, I had a guy in mind for the Ganja Ghost that would work awesome. I already have a life cast of him and it would be perfect. But they found a guy that they like better. They're not thinking about the fact that that guy that they cast looks awesome. He's going to be completely covered under makeup. Yeah. Like, I'm glad he's awesome. He's going to be completely
I think the frustrating thing that I remember you saying straight up, you're not going to see this person.
Yeah.
It was Snoop. Right?
Yeah.
When they were originally.
They're not.
No.
But at the same time, same thing.
That was the whole point.
You're not going to see him.
Yeah.
And if you do use him, and we do see him, then we need to change the concept.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you can afford to bring my opinion into it is helpful, but I'm not the director, so I never push too hard. I'll never, you know, it's their movie. I'm just a tool. I offer my services.
You tool.
Yeah. I'm an Allen wrench, damn it.
I want to touch base a little bit, even though hopefully people will have watched this, but I'm accept the fact that a lot of people watch
the there's people afterwards. That have not seen it.
Dennis Hopper's character, he's the uncle of Sally and was it Franklin? The wheelchair kid in the first movie, and he's you know, he's convinced that
he's been tracking these guys.
Yes. And you do actually see what happened to Franklin in this movie.
Which is super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool. Well, I don't know. I don't understand why they bring the wheelchair with them.
Right?
They move. Now we're in the pits of this awesome underground subdwelling.
I can't disagree with you, but let's just think about the rest of their life choices here, where you can be like, well, maybe they just don't think clearly.
So, no. The way that I can justify this is you see it in the first one. They make all their furniture out of bones, their lampshades out of skin, their seats out of skin. They saw this contraption of a wheelchair and they're like, oh, we're going to use that. We're using that. And like me, I've hauled junk across country 3 times because I'm like, oh, I'm going to do something with this. I'm going to build something with this. And I think that chair is just that. They are going to do something with,
there you go.
With that, but they haven't. But man, wheelchairs are just such a pain. I mean, it's not like they folded it up and took it with them like they collapsed, but there's a body in it. Yeah. There's a body in the wheelchair of a big man. And it's like, well, all right, let's bring that with us. We're going to use it.
I didn't properly credit Ken Everett, who played the grandpa.
Right.
Even though he doesn't exactly talk in the movie.
No, but he performs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very much so. And Bill Johnson takes over as Leatherface in this movie.
A very childlike version, similar to me to Gunner, like that child side.
He's great in the role. From what I understand, they did approach Gunnar Hansen, and it was...
He just wanted money. He
wanted
what he deserved, to be honest. But
well, from what one of the stories was that they offered him scale plus 10% for his agent, and then he told him that they didn't have an agent. And then they took away the 10%. Which is just...
There's an incredible book that I listened to on Audibles called Chainsaw Confidential, and it's Gunnar Hansen's recount of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I don't know if you've heard this, and I want to hear your reaction, which is the unit publicist when Hansen was apparently thinking it over, and then just they withdrew the offer and said, you know what? You know, the audience, the average audience goer isn't going to even know who the fuck these people are and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're under a mask. It doesn't matter.
And no, but this is the thing, is his mentality was, who are Neil, Burns, and Hansen anyway?
Yeah, there you go.
But that's what we're talking about, Hitchhiker and Sally, too.
Yeah.
His name, that's not even a mask, man. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, I think you're highly underselling and underestimating the power of your iconography. Even Hansen,
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays, Hansen has his fans.
Oh, of course.
Period.
Of
Period.
course.
And I just, that statement is just mind-boggling to me,
Yeah.
And I understand that maybe, things weren't quite the same as they are now and stuff. They don't have, decades of legacy behind them and stuff. But that movie did create a legacy by the time the sequel was coming around.
It did. And I love Gunnar Hansen as Leatherface, and I think he would have done great in the sequel. I think he's a fabulous actor. But who's your favorite Leatherface of all Leatherfaces? I mean, it's been played by so many people.
It's really
now.
hard to say because, I mean, even just those two movies, they're just
they're
absolutely
different. They're all
completely different characters, and most of them are.
Yeah.
And I love this iteration of him, and it's hard to imagine other performers playing it like this.
Right.
And I really love.
I guess the movies are so different.
And is he my favorite version of Leatherface? I can't say that.
Huh.
But I don't know that any of the other performers could perform them as well as Bill Johnson did in this movie. If that makes sense.
That does make sense. It does make sense.
And so it's hard for me.
So what's your favorite Texas Chainsaw movie?
I lean heavily towards this one, actually.
Towards part 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because when I saw it, I didn't know black comedy was a thing.
Right. It's kind of like Evil Dead 2 a little bit, too.
I saw this before I saw Evil Dead 2.
When Evil Dead 2 came out, it was like, wait, this is a straight balls-to-the-wall horror movie with slapstick humor? Like, that is a weird thing.
Well, and see, the first time I saw Evil Dead 2, I caught it in the middle when Ash had already put the chainsaw on his arm and a shotgun, and he was a fucking superhero. And I was like, hell yeah, man, this guy's awesome. And then plus I already knew black comedy was a thing, too. Yeah. So when I saw the funny
it was a different experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would have to say that my favorite Texas Chainsaw film is part 1. Hands down.
I thought you were going to say...
but my favorite Leatherface...
3.
My favorite Leatherface is R.A. Mihailoff from part 3. He was the scariest. So Leatherface has a childlike quality in part 1. He kind of just wants to play with you. And in part 2, he just wants to fuck you. Like, he's like a horny guy.
That's what I loved about it, is because...
It's like teenager Groot.
Yeah, because, they really... the entire family... You see is just completely deranged, where it's all like, oh, yeah, he's got himself a girlfriend.
Yeah. That's the thing. So, like, in part 1, he wants to play with you. In part 2, he wants to do you. In part 3, he wants to kill you.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, R.A. Mihailoff played the most terrifying Leatherface. He was, huge. He was, 7 foot tall.
I remember that was the first time.
I mean, he made Ken 4. He looks like a small guy.
Even without the chainsaw, you're like, oh shit,
this dude's huge.
Yeah.
And the saw was bigger.
I just remember that trailer where they treated it like Excalibur.
And it comes out of the
That was
wall.
awesome. Yeah.
But then part 2, to me, as a standalone movie,
I think it has the most character development.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
So this Chainsaw franchise is a very weird one because There's one Saw film that I'm not a fan of, but the rest I love every
Me,
one
it's
of
the
them.
prequel,
The sequel to the
prequel to the
prequel.
remake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the prequel
I
to
hate
the
that
remake.
movie.
I don't like it either.
I do not like that movie
I
at
did
all.
not
And
understand.
and it's not his fault, but I
No.
didn't even like Leatherface in that movie,
Oh.
honestly. And that's not his fault. It's the movie's just trash.
Andrew Bernarski's my least favorite Leatherface.
That was him?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just feel
He
like,
seemed, I don't know,
but
I can't say he seems small, but that's what when I think of him, like he seems small.
But
I don't know.
the thing is that was the beginning. It's supposed to be, and it's like the Texas Chainsaw beginning, and instead it was like Officer Hoyt's beginning.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with.
Well, he was the best part of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they made it.
I just think
his character was so effective in the remake.
it was great, and they should have just been done with it. Move on.
You know how
I
it
don't
goes.
know. I didn't like. That's the only one I don't like.
Well, that's what I think is unusual about the entire series, is because even the ones that are connected to each other, they feel distinctly different.
Different.
From one
Every
another.
one
Yeah.
is completely.
That's
different.
actually, and I might go on tangent on this, but that's actually what I love about the Child's Play series.
Yeah.
Is that even though all of them
they're
are connected,
all very different.
they all
yeah.
feel completely different than the other.
All right, back to Texas
We
Chainsaw.
didn't. You briefly mentioned Carolyn Williams.
Yeah, let's talk about Caroline Williams.
Did you hear about her audition for the film?
I don't know what you're referring to.
She went to the end of the hallway, came running down full speed, busted into the doors, screaming her head off, immediately yanked both Kit Carson and Toby Hooper off their chairs, grabbed the chairs, barricaded the door, screaming, and then started playing the scene. Just and that's how she won the full commitment to the audition and got her the role.
She's an interesting dude. Not dude like dude, but she's rad. I worked with her.
I find her very sexy in that movie. Very, very sexy, even though she's unconventional compared to a lot of other scream roles or whatever you want to call it.
I worked with her last summer, and it was the first time I ever met her. And I don't get starstruck. I work with a lot of my childhood heroes, and she was one that I always loved this movie, and I never thought that I would. I mean, she disappeared for a long time. I loved her in Leprechaun 3. Like, I thought she was great, but I didn't think that she was one I was going to work with. And the day she showed up on set, it was like 4 or 5 days into us working together, and she walks over to me and she's like, "Hey, Dev, there you are!" And it was Stretch. Her voice, her way of talking. I was like, "Oh my God, I got approached by somebody who I'm a
What did she
fan
know
of."
you from?
She just knew I was doing the effects on the movie, and she had watched Face Off. She's a fan of Face Off, and but it was such a eye-opening moment where I was just like, "Caroline, it's so good to see you." I don't even know her, but she was rad, man. We did. This movie was sweaty and bloody and nasty, and she had the best attitude the whole time.
It's so weird about when you think about her role in that movie, is because she's very tough.
Yeah.
She holds her own. She plays a little bit of the damsel in distress, but she doesn't expect anybody to rescue her. She is strong in the moment. She's very hot, but not conventionally hot. And the accent too really does something for me in that movie too. It's just it's very unusual.
She's hardly playing a role in that movie. She really is that person.
Well, that and her chemistry, clear chemistry with LG in that movie is fantastic. You really believe that they are very close, and that's
and she loves rock and roll in real life. Like, she is very much that character.
Yeah,
it's a trip. I mean, 2 weeks.
Do you know she feels she's played that character in more than one movie?
I would imagine she probably does.
Well, actually, she was literally directed to be Stretch in Leatherface 3, or Leatherface Texas 3. She's playing Stretch. She was told by Burr,
Jeff Burr,
to do so, and so she played him in that, or played Stretch in that, and then also in Hatchet 3, even though she's not playing same character. She was absolutely told, this is the character this is what we're going for. And so in her mind, it was, even though the character's Amanda something or other, she's a reporter, that she changed her name based on
this tragedy history.
And then she was
survived.
Very much Stretch. And she, oddly enough, she played a character named Stretch in Sharknado 4, but she doesn't, for whatever reason, she doesn't consider that the same character. So
that's funny. That's fine. I haven't seen the Sharknado 4 yet.
Neither have I.
I actually have not watched any of the
My guess is it's a lampoon of the character, which is probably why she doesn't consider it.
I'm sure. But I do know that she likes Sharknado. She talked about that. But cool girl. Maybe someday we'll get her out here to the museum to do a signing. Awesome. I would love it. We've had the talk already, but it's just been, it's trying to work everybody's schedules out. But yeah, so based on the love for this movie.
Well, we're completely well, at least I don't think we've talked about him enough at all. Bill Moseley.
Yeah, let's talk about Bill Moseley.
Yeah.
We'll do I was getting to a Who's Score, but we'll do Who's Score after we talk about Bill Moseley.
Do you know how he got...
Yes, I do, and I want to tell that story.
No, okay. I just want to make sure. I don't know the facts. Sometimes I expect you to know facts and you don't know them.
Yeah, I know.
And other times you do. So
here's the thing. Bill Moseley was a huge horror fan, and he made a fan film in, it was the Salon Massacre.
Texas Chainsaw
Manicure. Yeah, it took place in a salon, and he mailed it to Tobe Hooper. And Tobe Hooper thought it was awesome, and when he made the movie, he cast him. And
he knew if he ever wrote a sequel that he was going to write a part for him.
And I think that's awesome. And
and
he lived in Massachusetts too. He didn't live he wasn't a Hollywood guy.
But even the character that he wrote for him is because in the Manicure, the parody, he played the hitchhiker,
right?
Who ends up in Texas too. He's playing the twin brother of the hitchhiker, who dies, of course, in the original and stuff. So it makes complete sense why he wrote that part for him. So.
No, it was Bill, and that launched Bill Moseley's career into. From that he went. I think his next big thing was Army of Darkness. He was just one of the Deadites, but Sam Raimi was a big fan of Texas Chainsaw, and Bill was a big fan of Evil Dead, and they connected.
I love that plate in his
head. And the plate in the head.
I love that so much.
He's
sitting there picking
at it with he's got the little
tasting how he tastes.
He's a cannibal that eats his own.
Yeah. It was like, how do I taste? I need a snack.
It's kind of like chewing scabs. I always thought scabs taste like beef jerky.
I honestly have never tried my scabs.
Oh, they're like, you get a little stick to it. Like if you bite it with your teeth to your teeth, you get like a...
I love beef jerky though.
Yeah. It's a lot like beef jerky.
I'm actually going to cut in for just a second.
Hey, that's Waleed.
Yeah. He's the twin brother?
Yeah.
I thought it was the same character, and the reason why he had the plate in his head was because he got ran over by a truck.
No, in fact, the body laying across in the Breakfast Club poster is the hitchhiker.
Yeah, Nubbins.
And it's the person that Leatherface is holding up
at the beginning, in the back of the truck.
Yeah,
when he's like, woo, woo.
Because Nubbins
never knew that.
Nubbins has a birthmark on his face, even though it's on the wrong side in the movie. And then actually at the end. When LT gets blown up, there's a grenade on him, and is Drayton, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He says Nubbins, help me out, and he grabs a grenade off his dead body.
Off the dead body of
He calls him Nubbins.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was I didn't know that was the hitchhiker's name in the first one. Was Nubbins.
They don't call him that, but it is. That is who it is.
I totally thought it was just the same dude, but with a plate in his head now.
Nope.
Oh, learned something new. Anyway, I am going to go back into my hidey hole.
What's your, this is not the top 3, but what's your favorite Texas Chainsaw movie?
Part 2.
Part 2?
Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite Leatherface? Same thing?
Part 3 is scarier, but part 2 is,
two has the most character.
Yeah. Great. Oh, here's a good one. What's your favorite Leatherface mask?
I actually really love this mask very much.
This mask is great.
Yes, fantastic.
Yeah, I gotta say part 1. The Yellow Apron part 1.
What I love about the mask in this is you can see distinct, multiple faces in.
Yeah, it's cool with the nose and the ears.
Even the color of the skin.
Yeah,
too.
That was always cool with a little bit, and he's got he's got sideburns for eyebrows. That's cool. The way it works out and his chin hair.
And I have to say, though, that it's ironic that this worked out this way because this has what was lacking in last week's feature, which is a climactic fight
Yeah.
between the hero and the villain.
It's the devil's playground.
I'm bringing it down! Down, down! Bring it all down!
And it's got that so badass fucking chainsaw gimmick.
Oh, yeah,
where
yeah.
You could see the
The
chainsaw
saw's
through.
moving through 'em, yeah.
And Savini actually said that he told his team what he wanted, and he was gone for like 8 to 10 minutes, and it was done.
That's
that
awesome.
he had already sculpted out the belly and stuff like that, and already figured out how they were going to work it out in like
That's awesome.
8 to 10 minutes and stuff. Sorry, we don't work that fast for you, man. We're trying.
This is what I need. Do it.
But that and also ironic because it came down to grenades too, even though so you can still have a fight between
And still blow 'em up.
still blow 'em up. But yeah, absolutely. It's hard. I think Leatherface is treated more as an actual individual in this movie more than any others. And
Yeah.
I think that's why I love his character so much in this movie. Frankly, even though he clearly still does a lot of carving and stuff like that, he's not as much of an antagonist in this movie as the other ones, you know. And I definitely think we need to go and touch base on that scene when
The hump scene?
the face scene.
Oh, yeah.
Although that is
The
fantastic.
chainsaw hump scene is awesome.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's where she ends up seducing Leatherface into her feminine wiles. And so when it gets to the part I'm talking about, she's able to, plead with him because he doesn't want to kill her because he basically looks at her as his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And
Bubba's got a girlfriend. Bubba's got a girlfriend.
If you're gonna be my girl, you gotta wear this. And puts what looks like LG's face on, and you're at least for me, you're pretty sure that's LG's face and stuff like that. And then he's hiding her, hiding Stretch, and then when they go off, then she's left there by herself, and sure enough, it's it's LG's face because faceless LG with this is why I'm bringing it up because it's probably best kill, probably best effects. His legs tore open, his half of his body's tore open, and you can see his ribs and stuff, and his face is gone, and what's funny is that the scene is funny, despite the fact that. There's still that party that's going, good Lord, how much agony is that dude in, But it's actually a great character beat, too, between these, you finally see these two characters and how much they actually care for each other because despite the fact that he's a bloody, tore up mess, he still wants to help her because he has love for her, and she ends up telling him that she loves him. And it's funny, and I watched an interview with them. And he's just musing, of course, but Lou Perryman, who played LG, said that he believes that that LG lived in that moment, and then he eventually got, went to the hospital, got fixed up, and then now that he knew that Stretch professed her love for him and stuff, that they actually ended up getting married.
So my who's cooler question has changed a little bit, but who's cooler? Skinless LG or LG with skin?
Skinless LG. That's cool as shit.
Pretty cool,
That's pretty fucking cool because he's still LG. He's even got time to spit. He spits loogies through the whole movie. He still has time to spit despite the fact that he has no lips anymore.
He always says darling.
And I love that moment when, he goes to cut her free and it kind of looks like he might want to stab her in the back because he's in agony and he's probably pretty angry. But no, he's just in such immense pain that he's having a hard time controlling his faculties. But she's nice enough to put his face back on after.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that helps a lot because it'll cool him off and stuff.
Well, it'll stop the wind blowing from the raw wound, you know?
It's like, that's nice. That's a nice little touch. Well, that's pretty awesome.
I think it's best death, best effects moment in the movie. Practical effects are fantastic. Although I do love the head scene at the beginning.
Oh yeah, that'd be my favorite death in the movie. Actually,
yeah. It's a cool gimmick. I think what ended up taking down points is I watched the behind the scenes thing, and you've probably seen it.
Shooting the blood in like squirty tubes.
Yeah, and Savini was disappointed with the shot, and then
he wanted to do it again.
Yeah, and he talked about what they were aiming for, and so and I think that rubbed off on me because
I can totally relate to that scenario, but being a kid when I saw it, I was just jumping for joy. I mean, that's
just
one
the
you're
packing
rooting.
peanuts that he had painted for brain fragments.
You're rooting for the villains at that moment, and it's brilliant because that guy is such a.
Well, that's the funny thing is the original script they were written as hippies.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get past because they were like, well, no, we want to root for the bad guys.
Yeah, so make them college dweebs.
And so, how do you get past that? And then finally they said, "Oh, yuppies that wear pastel polos and shit." It's like that's
it. Those stupid glasses.
Dirty. Well, this is for Rick the Prick. He wants to hear bright lights, big titties. Wrong. I don't want to hear it. I want to see it. Bright lights, big titties.
And the voices were horrible. Like they're like, "Woo!"
I thought it was funny. Everybody had a fucking car phone.
The bag phone.
Yeah, even Drayton Sawyer had a phone in his van.
The future was now.
Right.
My dad had one of those car phones. You could never get that kind of reception they had.
Right? What? What?
Anyway, so on the Hypno-Swirl scale of grading, where do you put this one?
I still refuse to break, so I just have to go 5.
All right. I'll see your 5, and I'll raise you 2. I go 7.
You did 7 for Return of Swamp Thing.
I can do 7 for multiple movies.
Yeah, I know you can, but I love them both. But to me, Kane's Down Texas 2 is far superior to.
We had different childhoods, sir.
Yeah. Well, clearly, since I gave Return of Swamp Thing, what I give that?
Oh, like a 3.
A 3.5. I think is what I gave it. Yeah, that sounds right.
You gave it an insultingly low number, is what you gave it.
I'm changing it to a 2.5.
Oh. Oh. All right. I'm gonna go get the chainsaw. Let's just pause for a break for a word from our sponsor. All right, we are back at Midnight at the Monster Museum, and what a wonderful, awesome movie we just discussed. If you haven't seen Texas Chainsaw 2, go check it out. If you guys want to leave us a comment, let us know what your favorite TCM movie is. I'd love to know. And, I just want to touch on this one thing because we're talking Chainsaw, and this is a very passionate film franchise to me. I like them all. And being that, a lot of people bagged on Part 4. And a long time ago, I got the pleasure to do a life cast on Matthew McConaughey. And I worked on a movie called Reign of Fire. It was a dragon movie. And he had shot the whole movie bald, but he had grown hair back. And we were doing pickup shoots. And we had to make foam latex bald caps. So I got to life cast his head. And when I did, he came in at lunchtime. Everybody else was gone. And I said, man, you can sit down and have some lunch with me and hang out or whatever. I was a kid. I was like 20 years old, maybe 22. And I said to him, no, I wasn't 22. I was 20. I said, man, I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 4. He said, there's no way you love that movie. I said, I do love that movie. He goes, man, nobody likes that movie. And I said, now you know someone that loves that movie, and it's me. I really do. And I love Texas Chainsaw 4. I think the makeup effects are terrible in Part 4. I know we're not doing this movie on
Well,
this movie.
what's funny is the only reason why they got released was because both their stars hit.
Yeah,
You know?
but also it's what hosted the movie because they had to hold off on the release due to some Jerry Maguire bullshit, and they weren't allowed to release it. But both Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey went on to be huge stars, and they're part of my franchise, my favorite franchise. So it was a big deal, and I loved it. I just wanted to share that story.
And real quick, I did, because I should have said this earlier, is that's what I also say about these modern day remakes, is that they aren't necessarily all shit. I don't care what anybody says. The remake of Texas Chainsaw was a good movie.
That's a great
really
movie.
Like that
that was a great movie.
And
that
a lot
shot,
of people turn out.
the one shot that goes through the van window or through the dude's mouth,
Oh yeah,
out his back of his head,
oh, love
and
that.
out
So
the
great.
window. That nobody did that. That was awesome. That was great. And I thought the mask looked great in the remake.
I have very few complaints about that movie.
No, it was great.
And it was its
Jessica
own beast.
Biel. She was good.
God damn, yes,
she was great. That was like in the era of Ron Turner. They're like, hey, we're gonna put new kind of girl in these movies where they're brunettes and they wear brown tank tops and they have dark blue jeans and they sweat a lot. And it worked, man. It was good. Yeah.
I love when Leatherface is wearing Eric Balfour's face,
Yeah.
and you can totally tell it's Eric Balfour's face.
Yeah, no, that was good. I guess we could just do a whole episode on Texas Chainsaw at some point, but we're gonna move on.
Real quick, Part 4.
I said you could laugh. I didn't say no. I was kidding.
Back to your corner.
No, because you're saying we like that movie. What is up with the weird fucking
mechanical legs?
No, the yuppie businessman of pain with the pierced nipples and the chest thing.
Oh yeah.
What the hell was that?
That was Leatherface's twin brother.
I just like that they're all being hidden by the government.
Nubbins 2. It was Nubbins Senior. What was that? If they didn't have that, it would have been better, because that just threw me off, and I was really confused by it.
I saw an awesome documentary on YouTube about making Texas Chainsaw 4. It was really rare, and it never got released, but it's on YouTube. I think it's called The Next Generation, but it was awesome, and it lets you in on everything that went wrong with that movie, and that's probably why they never released the documentary, because it's really pretty negative about it. It obliterates the effects crew and lack of effects.
Did McConaughey eventually believe you?
Did I like the movie?
Yeah.
I think he just chuckled it off and laughed it off, but at the same time, I had almost the exact same reaction. I worked with Robert Patrick at one point and told him how much I liked Dusk Till Dawn 2. And he's like, no, you don't.
I actually do like that one. I don't like the third one, though.
Yeah, Part 2 was great, man. And you had a cameo from Bruce Campbell and Tiffany Amber Thiessen. That's awesome. And it was, you know what? It was just a fun popcorn movie. But Robert Patrick was nicer. Not that Matthew McConaughey wasn't nice. He just didn't believe me. But Robert Patrick just kind of laughed about it in kind of his way and was like, oh, yeah. Nobody likes it. I was wearing a pin of Texas Blood Money, which is Dusk Till Dawn 2. I had the pin on, and he said it to me. He was like, nobody wants
I'm
that.
wearing the fucking pin,
Yeah.
dude. What do you think?
I was like, I found a Texas Blood Money pin, so anyway. So going forward in other things,
So
like
disappointed
podcasts,
in you, man.
wonderness.
So disappointed.
So Jeff wanted me to watch Overlord,
so
and he's been up my butt about watching Overlord.
Modern day horror movie, which had every reason to use a ton of CGI. They deliberately used more practical effects to get reactions out of their actors. Even shooting the plane crash scene instead of faking it, they actually had it. Where they dumped the damn actors out of the back of a fuselage just to get the proper effect, and that
like Con Air.
No, not like Con Air.
Oh,
Overlord.
So I have not seen Overlord, but Jeff took his trip to the movies to see Overlord, and actually Waleed saw Overlord too.
Great movie.
So if you guys want to indulge me on why I might want to see this movie, I understand.
That reason
actually, I'm going to tell you just
it's
for
a bad robot movie Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams production company, and instead of going CGI, which I would have automatically expected such a big company to go, oh, we're going to make it CGI. No, they deliberately went for as much practical effects as possible. You know? I don't know.
I'll watch it. I will give it a shot. But
that's what she said last week.
Indulge our audience on Overlord. Tell us about it. Tell us all about Overlord.
Well, this is the fantastic thing about it is that on one hand, it's actually a World War II movie.
Wait, who's cooler? Saving Private Ryan or Overlord?
Overlord.
Yeah.
Overlord. Yeah. It's a World War II movie, and it's based on an actual Operation Overlord that happened back in World War II. And instead of it being like a zombie movie, because they're kind of like zombies, I would say that the zombieism type thing is more akin to like a Resident Evil type thing.
Okay.
But
it's a virus.
Kind of, yeah. And the U.S. military stumbles across these experiments that the Nazis are doing in Nazi Germany and stuff. They crash in there and they're just trying to evade the German soldiers, and then they end up wanting to accomplish their mission, and most of them don't know what's going on. But Wyatt Russell, who is actually Kurt Russell's son.
He's great.
He is phenomenal because he's fucking 80s Kurt Russell in this movie. He looks just like him. He looks like him. He acts like him. He's McCready from The Thing in this movie. That's basically awesome. What he is.
I wonder what I saw him in something. I don't remember what.
He was in 22 Jump Street.
Oh yeah. Yep. That's what I saw.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of big name actors in this movie.
No, you don't need them.
No. But Jovan Otopo. He plays the main character. His name's Boyce in the movie, and I'm only bringing him up because everybody in this movie is phenomenal, even though you haven't seen most of them. And the only main recognizable, there's a guy named Bokeem Woodbine. Some people might know him. He's got a bit part of the movie. That's probably the only other big name person. And then Ian de Castecker plays Fitz in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
Who actually he plays it with an American accent because he's one of the American soldiers and stuff. But
it's crazy how they can just turn their accents off.
Yeah, and he does it convincingly. Because that was the funniest thing, is because I kept looking at him. I'm like, I recognize him, but I'm so used to hearing that thick accent from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a couple other things I've seen him in. I don't know why. It was tricking my eyes, and it's not, who is this, But absolutely fantastic movie. The practical effects are amazing. High tension factor. I mean, who doesn't want to see a revival of 80s Kurt Russell?
I mean, I do.
Well, apparently you don't, because you don't watch the fucking movie, man.
I will. I'll watch it.
Well, that's why I have you. Well, no, because yeah, sure, but it's a great one.
Fine, I'll watch all the movies and I'll just do this by myself.
When we can discuss them together. We discussed it together last time at that house, and we had a great discussion about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But remember that time when you told me all about Hellboy?
Band camp?
I didn't watch Hellboy.
Yeah, but that movie sucks.
But Overlord doesn't suck.
No, that movie's amazing.
So what do you give it on your meter?
I'm gonna give it a 5.
A 5?
Yeah.
Okay,
I do.
I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna watch Overlord. If I don't watch Overlord, I can't punish myself. What's a good punish? I want something good.
No, I want.
Tell me your. Give me somebody you want me to reach out to have a signing here. But I want to do that anyway. I don't want to do it.
I'm like, where's the downside?
Yeah, I was gonna be like, you get to pick. Well, it could be something that you could pick. Like
I want you to get Lisa Wilcox out here.
Lisa Wilcox.
Yeah. Alice from Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
that is one.
That's a tough one.
I love her.
Well, it's a tough one because it's tough. Anyway, let's move on. I'll watch Overlord. It'll be good. I'm sure. Wait, Wally, what do you give Overlord on a 1 to 5 rating?
On a 1 to 5?
Yeah.
I'll go with a 7.
Oh, wow. He's breaking the system. Look at that. He's breaking
You guys have convinced me.
I'll do the 7.
You guys have convinced me.
No,
I've never been
It starts
more
off like
convinced.
they're in occupied France. And
I'm going to
like,
stop you right there. Stop. I'm going to tell everybody in the podcast world why I haven't watched this movie. Because Jeff has pitched this to me as a war movie with zombies. I don't like war movies. I don't care for them. I just don't watch a lot of Platoon. I don't watch a lot of...
It's a completely different war.
Apocalypse Now.
Completely different
I don't watch a lot of Saving Private Ryan. I like every movie I just mentioned, I think is awesome.
How about this? I don't like war movies.
But... Either way, I'm going to tell you...
war movies, I like, oh man, I saw this badass war movie. No, I'm just being honest. It's a war movie that I feel like
I just painted an ugly picture because I do like to watch those movies once. I don't watch them over and over again. And maybe I won't watch this over and over again, but I'm going to watch it once and I'm probably going to love it. So leave me alone. I'll watch the dang movie.
It's really close to like The Thing, but like without the crazy monster.
And it's got the great camaraderie between the teammates and stuff like that. That's what you want to see. And you want to see the team building between the guys that, that guy's a smart ass. I totally relate to that guy, And is he going to fucking die? Oh, no, he's actually kind of cool.
It's got all the good tropes and action.
It's a throwback movie. That's the thing. It's a total throwback movie.
All right, I'm convinced.
Without being
I have not been this convinced since anything we've started because I haven't watched anything that you've told me to watch.
Shit.
It's sort of like a crazy,
You didn't watch What We Do in the Shadows?
Super cheesy.
Son of a bitch, because I texted you the other day. Have you get to episode 7 yet?
No.
Oh my God! You need to watch episode 7 of What We Do in the Shadows.
It's 7.
Everything is 7.
I can't say why, but you need to get. But you need to watch fucking episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 before you get to 7. But you need to watch it first.
I have
What happened? I gave it a 5-star, and he's like, "Oh, 5-star! Oh, I gotta watch it now." He says. He said that about What We Do in the Shadows. He said that about What We Do in the Shadows.
I'm going to. I'm gonna watch it
before they make the reboot of it, man.
All the ones that you said that you will watch. You have to watch sometime in the future, and on just one podcast, we will go through all the ones that you watch, and then that you haven't watched yet.
And because then we can have an actual discussion.
Okay. Yeah. I agree to that. Wally's top 3 favorite
go back and
part 7s.
Favorite part 7s?
Is there a lot of part 7s?
I mean, Friday the 13th part 7. That's the one with the psychic.
Yeah,
right?
Of course. That's great.
That was great. That was supposed to be
Carrie.
Freddy versus Jason, right?
No, that's Carrie. It was originally.
Was it Carrie?
Carrie.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's basically.
She is.
Yeah, she is.
Carrie. Yeah, great movie. Effects were cut pretty abysmally, but the movie is freaking great.
And Jason looks awesome in that one.
Yeah. John Beekler.
That's 1-7.
Yeah. There's not a lot of 7s, is there?
Sure there is.
Okay, and enlighten us.
There's a ton.
I mean, I really want to know. Like 6.
Well, no, there's more than 6.
Yeah.
But that's because technically New Nightmares is part 7, but is that because it breaks from canon and then it's a different.
Well, if that counts, then definitely that one because that one was.
No, it's fantastic. Really it's a fantastic movie.
I count it.
I mean, if Robert Englund's playing Robert Englund,
I count the 7th Godzilla movie. I count the 7th.
Which one's part 7 though?
I don't know.
Yeah, Godzilla.
But I love Godzilla 1985.
And we're talking about, it's like, okay, what else?
Puppet Master?
That's not Peppa Man. The 7's not on there.
Sure, there's a 7 on there.
No, I'm not saying the 7 don't exist. I'm saying that they don't make the list. I don't care if there's only two other series in there.
Yeah.
There's 7 Child's Play movies. Yes.
Well, no,
100%.
I mean, if we're going with that same thing with New Nightmare.
No, because they all are in canon.
They're all together.
Yeah,
I mean, they wrap it up at the end.
They start getting meta, but the way you know that is Jennifer Tilly may show up as Jennifer Tilly, but she's still
Tiffany.
Yeah, in the role.
And
she just happens to look like her.
Okay, with the not calling it Part 7, like they
no,
going off with different
people
names.
seem to stop after Part 5. They're like, let's not keep putting numbers on here because nobody wants to watch that. But I consider
or bylines.
Yeah. You know, but I would say so. Part 7 of Child's Play would be 4's Bride. 5 would be.
Can't you lower the number? I know why you did 7.
777. I was going for like.
I know, but
now it's just like it's not really picking favorites. It's just figuring it out now.
Because realistically, most series that fit in this world aren't that good by the time they get to 7.
How about Waleed's top 3?
Waleed's top 3.
Part 3. That's a harder question to answer. Like in a good way.
Waleed's top 3 favorite boobs.
I don't know why I'm adjusting.
In a horror film. I'm not talking about boobs in real life.
I'm sorry, gotta be Pamela Voorhees or not. Yeah.
That is my number 2 actually.
Pamela Voorhees from Friday 13th Part 5.
I've actually given this some thought.
I stopped because you were like no influencing, but I mean, how can you not?
You can't. It's the first thing
my first one was going to be I can't remember her name, but Life Force.
Life Force.
Oh, good lord, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. And can you believe she was a ballet dancer too?
Oh,
that's weird. Because usually the dancers
never gave it any thought.
Yeah. Well, I give a lot of thought because how can you not? That's,
Life Force, Friday 13th Part 5, and Elvira. Just
nice, but I wouldn't put her in the list.
No, does it have to be like straight up?
No, you can't.
No,
I'm just
no.
There's nothing wrong with that. I respect
100%.
I respect it.
Right?
I respect it. I just wouldn't put her on my list. That's all I'm saying.
Ladies,
but it's your list. So
ladies who are listening to this podcast, I don't want to offend people by thinking that we're being sexist.
But they're
pigs,
there
but it's
for a
part
reason.
of the 3 B's of horror films is blood, boobs, and beasts.
Yeah,
right? Like you have to have them.
That's why they're there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. So it's one of those things where I think that there's not a teenage horror fan who hasn't spoken about it, and I think we all have our lists.
Particularly in those throwbacks we're talking about. You know? I mean, that's really and you just named 80s icons.
Yeah, I mean, it's all been lost
but
of modern day, but.
Especially being, a teenage kid and you're watching these movies and you're like, oh my God.
Well, you had described the other day when Corey Feldman is in his bedroom in Part 4, Friday 13th Part 4, and he's looking out the window and he hides under the sheets and he pulls the blanket over his head.
In Part 5.
Oh my God.
That would have been me in my room as a kid seeing Part 5.
Yeah. But and it was awesome what he said with his number 2 Voorhees being.
Well, that's
I like how you just called it out too.
Let's think about that. That's how iconic it is. It's his list. I start to say it, and all 3 of us go, yeah.
But the thing is
so I guess that's got to be 1, right?
Her last name being Voorhees.
Yeah, that's
in a Jason Voorhees movie, and Part 5. It wasn't like the name came from the.
It's not even got Jason in it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, spoilers or whatever.
There's a flashback. Some flashbacks.
Well, and then technically at the end they kind of tease that mentality
a little bit. Yeah. But man, I love Part 5. That was actually the first Friday the 13th movie I ever saw. It was rainy outside and I turned it on and it was raining on the movie and Reckless is running through the woods and I was terrified. We'll save that one for another day. Yeah,
boobs.
Boobs. So nighttime is the fright time, and this is Midnight at the Monster Museum. I'm Tom, that's Jeff, that's Waleed, and we are out.
Okay, well, I'm going to lock up. See you guys later. Oh, sweet. Looks like he fucking forgot about the Kill Me segment this week. Looks like I'm gonna live this week. Oh, fuck.
Hi, Georgie. Aren't you gonna say hello?
Fuck me.
There goes that. Looks like I am dead.